Welcome to Built-in Functions lecture. Built-in Python functions are always available on commands. As of Python 3.6, there are a total of 68 built-in functions. And if we click on the link to the official doc, we'll be taken to a page called Built-in Function. And bear in mind that sometimes they're also known as built-in methods. Hence, we have method here as opposed to function. And they're in alphabetical order from A to Z. And let's say we search for one, let's say max, we get returns largest elements for the description, we do sum, we get add items of an interval. Okay, so I'd encourage you to check out this page here, and going back to the Jupyter Notebook, so all we're going to be doing is covering just 12 of these built-in functions, and I'm sure some of them are quite familiar to you. So reading from top to bottom here, we have max, min, sum, rounds, absolute, print, pow, sorted, eval, formats, any, and all. And bear in mind that with newer versions of Python, the number of built-in functions might vary from time to time with newer releases of Python. So let's just scroll down here. And what we can also do, if you're still unsure of any particular built-in functions, is you can do the help. So this is a help built-in function. Let's say we do max, and it will tell you about the built-in function. We could do eval, or we could do print, which we've seen many times before. Okay, so moving on from that, firstly what we're going to do is import random as rd, and then what I want you to do is rd.seed10, so that when you generate the random numbers, it's going to be the same as mine. I'm going to call a variable numbers. We'll do rd.sample range 1, let's say 10 to 100, and k equals 10. So we have a range between 10 and 100, or rather between 10 and 99, and we're going to have 10 of these randomly generated numbers, and they should be the same as mine. So you should have 83 all the way to 93. Okay, and before we carry on any further with these numbers, what we'll do is just some examination of the built-in functions. So we'll do max with numbers. Of course, that's 93, and the lowest should be 11, which it is, 11. And we can also sum all the elements within this numbers list. So we do numbers, go 558, and if we were to do, let's say round, so we have 9.12345, round this to 2 decimal places, we should get 9.12, or if we wanted to do 4, it should be 9.1235, so it's rounded up the 4 to 5, and we can also do absolute, and this will convert a negative number into a positive number. And if we have, let's say, a positive number 10, it will also just remain a positive number. And if we do eval, which we've seen before, we'll convert a string of a number into an actual number. Or if we were to have, instead of a integer, 4.5, that's fine as well. It converts it into a number as well. In this case, it floats. And then we could do pow, so if we do pow 2, this should give 16, which of course is the same as 4 raised to the power of 2 with these 2 asterisks here, and you also get 16. And we have to do 10, we should get 100. Okay, so moving on from that is, let's say we create a new variable, new numbers equals sorted. So we're sorting the numbers list that we created from lowest to highest. And if we take a look again at our numbers list, so you can see 83 to 93, so it's arranged in order. And what we can do then is, let's say for instance we have to do list comprehension, where we have pow, and we do x2 for x in new numbers. Run this, So essentially what it's doing is raising each of the elements 11 to 93 by 2. And if we were to do, let's say, 11, it should give 121. So we do pal 11 2, and we get 121. Okay, great. So moving on from that, let's just delete this and scroll down a little bit here. And we can kind of refer to this one if need be. So let's do another list comprehensions, and we'll do I greater than 40 for I in new numbers. And what we have here is Boolean outputs, so we have 3 false Booleans and 7 true Booleans. And what's happening, of course, is that in order to do new numbers, of course 11, 14, and 36 are not greater than 40, therefore you get false. And the remaining numbers are going to be true because they're greater than 40. And let's say, for instance, we want to use the any. Now the any will give a Boolean output of true or false. So if any of them within this list are true, it will give an output of true, which it does. However, when all of the Booleans within this list comprehension have to be true, otherwise we'll get false, which we do. So in order to get a true output with the all built-in function, what we have to do is simply do some slicing here. So we want to get rid of the 3 falses. Then we do 3 colon. We run this, we get trues only, and then we do all, and now we get true as the output. Okay, so what we can also do is actually sum all the trues within this list comprehension. And that's because, if you remember, true has a numerical equivalent value of 1. With false, it has a numerical equivalent value of 0. So we should have 7 as the output because there are 7 trues here. Great. If I were to turn this around to less than 40, we should get 3, which we do. So it's counting the number of trues. In this case, there are 3 trues. Alright, so moving on from that, let's create a new variable called data. So we have a string of 10, 8.12345, 100, minus 30, and minus 200. And we run the data. Great. Okay, so we have string, floats, positive integer, and 2 negative integers. And let's say we wanted to add all the values together, so we do new data. Well, what we have to do, of course, is use the eval. So we have 0, then plus, and we want to have it as an integer output. So we have data 1. So it's going to convert the float to an integer, plus data 2. And what we need to do with data 2 is, that should be fine actually because it's just an integer, but data 3 and data 4, we have to wrap the absolutes to convert them into positive values. And then we have new data, and there you go, 348 as the output. Okay. And let's say, just scroll down here a moment, let's say we have a string, so the top 3 values, and I'll explain in a moment why we're putting these numbers in the curly brackets. So we want the top 3 values from the new data, or rather from the data, so this would be this here. And we want only integer values, and we want them to be positive, and we want only just numbers. We don't want a string. So the top 3 values are going to obviously be 200, 100, and then 30. And we want to put them in this string here by formatting, and 2. And then we'll do my favorite number is, let's say the number is 1, so that should be 100 here. So what we're going to do is have the highest value to the lowest value of the top 3 numbers within this datas list, and then we're going to put in the favorite number, which is going to be 100. So how we go about that? So we do format, and before we do this line here, we actually have to do some code, but we could do it all within this parentheses, but it's rather long-winded and it will take up too much space. So what we'll do is let's create a variable called clean data, and then we'll do absolute k for k in fact, actually, before I do that, let's do int to make this a bit more clearer for I in data. So we're going to convert all of these to integers. So this is going to be an 8 instead of an 8.12345. And there we go. And if I were to do 0, we get 10. And if I check what type it is, this should actually just be an integer. Great, so it's converted it into an integer for us. We don't have to actually use the eval function here. But the problem is, we still have these negative numbers, so we have to get rid of these two. So how will we do that? Well, let's create a new variable called clean data. And we're going to do a list comprehension inside of a list comprehension here. So absolute k for k in. We don't actually need these parentheses anymore, so just to make it a bit clearer, I'll get rid of that. And then we run clean data, and this should convert the negatives into positive values. There we go. Okay. And then what we want to do is some slice notation here. So we want to just have these 3 values. I will want the 200 at the beginning, then 100, and then 30. So how do we go about doing that? Well, what we do is, we could actually do it all in one line, which I will actually, so I'll do it here. If we do 4, so 2 colons, so starting with the 4, which is the last element, 200, and then we're counting backwards. So this is going to reverse the entire list. There we go. So 200, 30, 100. And what we need to also do is sorted. So wrap sorted around it. And this is going to, actually, if I just remove that for a moment. So what we have to do here is go from 8 to 200, and we want just these 3 and then reverse them round. So if I were to do that, should be 3 actually. 2 here, okay. And then we want to reverse this round, so what we can do is what I just showed before. It should be, there we go. Okay, so now we can put the clean data in the formats, but if we do just clean data, this is actually going to cause an error. Okay, so index error, tuple index out of range, because we have only 3 elements, which are 200, 130, and we have a total of 4 of these curly brackets. So what we need to do is firstly this, and that will add on the numbers for 0, 1, and 2. But what about this one here? Well, this should work actually, because what it's going to do is take the 100. If I run this, there you go. And if we were to change this, so let's just say the string itself, the top 3 values, 200, 100, and 30. My favorite number is 100. So 1 is here. And if we were to change this to, let's say, 2, we'll have 30. So 30 is the output. If we change this again, 0 will have 200. Great. Okay. So that concludes my lecture on built-in Python functions. I hope that's been insightful, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the Q&A. Thanks.